What I'm about to tell you isn't in any official record. Naval intelligence wiped it from the satellite feeds and classified the rest. As far as the government is concerned, it never happened. If you're listening to this recording, I'm either dead or I've been permanently silenced. Frankly, I don't care anymore. For nearly a decade, every single time I close my eyes, I see the exact same thing. Those cold concrete streets in the middle of the Pacific, and the thing standing behind those window frames, staring down at me without ever blinking. My name is Staff Sergeant Vance, ex-United States Marine Corps Recon. In the autumn of 2014, but at exactly 4 o'clock hours the next morning, a massive landmass appeared out of nowhere. An island, spanning several square miles. It hadn't risen from tectonic activity, it was just there, as if it had been dropped into the ocean overnight. But the island itself wasn't the nightmare. The real terror started when the first high-altitude satellite photos reached our command deck. There, sitting right in the middle of that unknown landmass in the dead center of the ocean, was a sprawling, fully formed city. Grid-patterned streets, boulevards, rows of suburban houses, and multi-story concrete structures. It was complete in every way, except for 2 horrifying details. Not a single window in the entire city had glass, and there was not a single trace of human life. We were a 12-man force recon team. Our objective was straightforward: insert via chopper, sweep the grid, identify the origin, and wait for extraction. Command told us it was likely an abandoned Cold War testing facility. They lied. We knew it the exact second our boots hit the asphalt. Our Black Hawk dropped us off in a gray paved square, right in the center of the town. As the helicopter pulled away and the roar of the rotor blades died down, a suffocating silence settled over us. I have never heard a silence so absolute. No birds, no wind, no sound of ocean waves breaking against the shore. Nothing except the sound of our own breathing inside our helmets. We fanned out in a tactical wedge. The houses, they looked normal from a distance, like an 80s American suburb, but up close, something was deeply wrong. The walls weren't made of wood, brick, or concrete. When I touched one, the material felt smooth, freezing cold, and subtly pliable. That was when Sergeant Miller raised his rifle. "Lieutenant," he whispered, his voice shaking over the coms. He pointed toward a 2-story gray house 30 yards away. "Look at the second-floor window." I raised my optic. Standing behind the glassless window frame was the silhouette of a woman. She was jet black, motionless, staring straight down at us. She wasn't breathing. She wasn't moving. She was just standing in the dark. "Identify yourself. U.S. Marines. Step out into the open," Lieutenant Miller barked. No response. The figure didn't even flinch. Lieutenant Miller, myself, and 2 other operators breached the front door. We stacked up, weapons raised, and cleared the ground floor before pushing up the stairs. We kicked open the door to the master bedroom where the figure was standing. No furniture, no dust, no footprints. I walked over to the window and looked down at the rest of the team waiting in the street. Sergeant Miller's voice came through my earpiece, trembling violently. "Sarge, you cleared the room, but she's still standing right next to you, right behind your left shoulder, Vance." But the air on the back of my neck felt ice cold. We regrouped and called for an immediate emergency extraction. The Black Hawk returned faster than expected. But as it descended over the central square, its engines suddenly died simultaneously. No warning, alarms, no smoke, just total, instant electrical and mechanical failure. The heavy metal bird dropped like a stone, slamming into the concrete and bursting into flames. Every mechanical device that entered the island's airspace died. We were trapped. As night fell, the sky didn't turn black. It turned a sickly, bruised shade of purple. And that was when the city slowly began to consume us. There was no monster. No creature roared in the dark. The city didn't attack us with claws. It erased us with terrifying, quiet impossibility. The first to go was Corporal Reed. I turned my head left for literally 1 second to check a doorway. When I looked back right, Reed was gone. No scream, no struggle. Just his M4 carbine lying on the asphalt. The receiver of his rifle was coated in a layer of white frost and a thick, odorless, black oily residue. Leading away from the weapon was a single wet streak on the pavement that ran straight toward the solid wall of a nearby house, and simply vanished into the wall itself. "Reed, report," we screamed into the radios. Nothing. We barricaded ourselves inside a structure for cover, backing up against one another with weapons aimed at every entrance. As the hours dragged on, voices started echoing through the open window frames outside. It wasn't a roar, it was our voices. Outside in the dark, Reed's voice was calling out from every empty window in the street simultaneously.
"It's so cold out here. Vance, just open the door."
At 3 o'clock hours, Private Harris was leaning against an interior wall. I told him to step away from the structure, but he didn't move. His eyes were wide open, locked in a vacant stare. I grabbed his tactical vest to pull him away, but he was fused to the wall. His skin felt as hard, smooth, and freezing cold as the building itself. He wasn't breathing. He had literally become part of the architecture. When we flushed out into the streets, at first light, the terrain had subtly altered. Underneath the dim streetlights, there were dragging footsteps etched directly into the pavement. But they didn't lead anywhere. They started out of thin air in the middle of the road, filled with that same black, mercury-like liquid. One by one, over the course of 8 grueling hours, our men vanished. One turned a corner and never came out the other side. Another disappeared the moment we blinked. There was no physical beast to shoot at. The city itself, the streets, the smooth walls, the oppressive air was absorbing us like a sponge absorbing water. By dawn, out of 12 hardened Marines, only 3 of us remained, myself, Lieutenant Miller, and Private Dawson. Lieutenant Miller broke. He lost his mind to the paranoia. He sprinted toward the massive windowless tower in the center of the town, screaming, "Someone is controlling this." There in the tower. He breached the main entrance. Dawson and I ran after him, stepping inside less than 3 seconds behind him. The room was a barren, empty concrete shell. Miller was gone. The only thing left was his dog tags resting in the exact center of the frozen floor. Dawson and I stopped looking back. We sprinted down the main drag, actively jumping over those wet, black streaks on the pavement, pushing our bodies to absolute exhaustion until we hit the jagged rock coastline at the edge of the island. The sun was just beginning to crest the horizon. The air was dead silent. Without saying a word, Dawson and I threw off our heavy gear and threw ourselves into the freezing waters of the Pacific. We swam until our lungs burned and our limbs felt like lead, putting as much distance between us and that shore as humanly possible. A mile out, floating on my back in the ocean currents, I looked back at the island one last time, and I saw something that will haunt every remaining day of my life. That massive city, that entire island, it didn't sink into the ocean. It didn't explode. It was like watching a television screen get unplugged. 1 millisecond, the concrete buildings and empty windows were there, and the next blink, it just shut off. It vanished instantly, leaving a massive void in the water that caused a violent surge of waves. Where a city of thousands of structures had stood seconds prior, there was now nothing but endless, flat blue ocean. A commercial cargo vessel pulled Dawson and me out of the water 6 hours later. We were taken to a military hospital, but we were never allowed to see civilian staff. Men in dark suits, no badges, no insignia took over our care. They moved Dawson to another ward that night. I never saw him again. They told me our landing craft had capsized during an amphibious exercise. They told me the 10 other men in my unit had drowned, and that my story about an island city was a severe hallucination brought on by extreme hypothermia. They scrubbed the satellite feeds. They designated those ocean coordinates as a permanently restricted naval hazard zone. But I know the truth. That island wasn't a piece of land. That city wasn't built for people to live in. It was a lure. It was the glowing bulb on the head of a deep-sea anglerfish, projected up to the surface. It was designed to look like something familiar, human sanctuaries, so that curious, foolish men would step ashore, and once you step inside the lure, the mouth closes. I can't look out my bedroom window anymore. Every night, when I stare out into the dark, I look at the apartment building across the street, and in the dark, glassless void of the top-floor window, I see that same pitch-black silhouette staring back down at me. It didn't go away. It just pulled itself back down into the deep, waiting until it gets hungry enough to surface again. If you ever read a news report about a mysterious, unmapped island spotted in the middle of the ocean, don't go there. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you. And whatever you do, don't look up at the windows. Because those aren't houses. They're waiting.